Good morning, Villa fans, and welcome to a match preview of Manchester City versus Aston Villa tonight at the Empti-ad or Etihad. Also going to be taking a look back at the Newcastle game from Saturday. Absolute great result there. What a thrashing that was. I jumped on and did an instant match reaction, but wanted to deep dive into it a little bit more as well. So grab yourselves a cup of tea and let's enjoy talking about the Newcastle thrashing and also previewing tonight's game at the Empti-ad against Manchester City in what is a race for fifth place now. So, all to play for, So just let's look at Newcastle first of all, and then we'll come on to Manchester City. So, I mean, first of all, absolutely fantastic result. I mean, I predicted a 2-2 draw there against Newcastle. I thought it would be a tough game given that Newcastle were coming into it on the back of 6 straight wins. But massive credit to Aston Villa. Starting the game the way we did. Team lineup was spot on. The subs were spot on. Unai just seemed to get everything right in this game. And it just seems to roll on from the PSG performance as well. Playing so well against PSG and then backing that up against, Newcastle, a rival team in the race for Champions League spaces. Absolutely terrific. Team lineup, as I mentioned, I think he got it right. Mings coming back in for Pau Torres at left centre back. Maatsen, we'll come on and talk about Maatsen in a moment. But Maatsen, getting the nod at sort of left back and well proving his point. Kamara, Tielemans, in there as well as the heartbeat of the side. McGinn playing very well at the moment. You couldn't really fault him. I think obviously Rashford and Watkins was going to be the tough decision to make. Does he stick with Rashford up front, or does he go with Watkins? And for this game, he went with Watkins, and you saw an angry Ollie Watkins there. I mean, his post-game interview, he kind of said he was knocked on Unai's door and asked, why he wasn't playing in the PSG games. I think only did like 20 minutes across both games, 20, 25 minutes perhaps across both sort of legs. And obviously he's the one who's been banging in the goals, just equaled Gabby's goal scoring record. And, without his goals and his contribution, Villa wouldn't be in the Champions League. So he's, within his rights to say, why am I not getting a starting place in arguably Villa's biggest game for years, for decades, when I've been the one who's contributed the most amount of goals to help us get to this point. So his reasons are valid, absolutely. Why wasn't he giving us a chance there? And, you saw an angry reaction there from Ollie Watkins. Even his goal against Southampton, the celebration, you could just tell it was a bit more of frustration, relief, everything, all those emotions coming out. And after 30 seconds against Newcastle, we've gone on the front foot, played the ball kind of going in behind. I think McGinn played the ball, trying to find Watkins. Tonali's managed to get round and get there first, but then his clearance falls straight to Yuri Tielemans. And Tielemans picks out a lovely ball into Watkins, who's onside because obviously Tonali's still behind play. And then Watkins gets lucky with his finish, sort of cuts in and has a shot which deflects off Fabian Schär, and then sort of just wrong foots Nick Pope, and it's 1-0 after 33 seconds of the game. You couldn't have asked for a better start than that. And Ollie Watkins is, he's there proving a point. So he's got his goal. It's 1-0 to Villa. It could have been more. I mean, Ollie Watkins, again, probably one of his best performances of the season, man possessed, racing down on goal, takes on the Newcastle centre-back, thunders a shot against the crossbar, which could have been 2-0. I mean, he was showing, really, really good ability on the ball, and to get a shot off there as well. I think on his weaker sort of left side as well. Great effort. But just unlucky that he couldn't, have it, just an inch or two below, and it would have been a crossbar and in again, like against Southampton perhaps. But anyway, quick cup of tea. Quick sip of tea even. And then Watkins again. Free kick from the left-hand side. I think it's Yuri Tielemans with the pinpoint delivery right on the head of Ollie Watkins, who plants a header and it smacks the post. Comes straight back to him, but couldn't sort his feet out quick enough for any sort of rebound. But, that he could have easily had a hat-trick. I think there's one other chance that he had where he dragged a shot wide as well. Morgan Rogers had a chance, which is sort of kept out by Pope as well. So Villa in that first half were absolutely rampant. Just as I said, starting the game more goals up, but unfortunately didn't. Well, we did add to it in the second half, but Newcastle did get an equaliser, which was a shame. There weren't too much in the game. I think before that, not much going on, not much for Martinez, but Harvey Barnes gets the ball out wide, produces a cross to the back post, which evades everyone. And Ian Maatsen's then up against Fabian Schär, who I think stayed up from a corner or something. And then Schär gets a header on it. You could question Martinez there. I mean, should he be beaten there? I think it's gone through his legs in the end and sort of trickled over the line. But Fabian Schär gets his third goal against Villa in his many games. And it's 1-1. And at that point, it's like, all that effort and hard work in that first half, dominating the game. How's this going to go now? So, the first half ends at 1-1. And, at that point, you're just thinking, what ifs if you took those chances, I think Tonali had a shot in the first half as well, which Emi Martinez had to save, get down low quite well and tip away for the corner. But Villa were, definitely on fire. Asensio had a chance in that first half as well. Again, Ian Maatsen on the left, doing really well to get to kind of the byline, cutting it back. Asensio's is an open goal, really, but he's missed that one. And obviously, he missed 2 penalties against Southampton. He missed that chance against PSG when he was one against Donnarumma. Just in the last 4 big chances that Asensio's had, he's missed them all. So look, I'm hoping he's going to bounce back. Maybe tonight against Man City if he is in the lineup. But yeah, so we need a goal or 2 from Asensio because he kind of owes us it, really. It's those last 4 big chances he's kind of missed. And aside from the Asensio chance, Watkins having those chances, there wasn't too much more as far as I can remember in that sort of first half. The Tielemans, Kamara was brilliant as well. Tielemans and Kamara, absolutely superb. And I came into this game worried about the Newcastle midfield. Obviously, Guimaraes, Tonali and Joelinton. And I talked about how powerful they are, the work rate, how much energy they have. But Newcastle went with the same lineup for the 7th game running. And you could see there were some weary legs in there. I mean, we just outran them. Saying that, Tielemans has started every game for us. Kamara's coming back from still a long-term injury. McGinn's been in and out of the team. So our midfield was, we've put in quite a fair share ourselves in terms of minutes and shift. But Newcastle just looked like they were lacking some energy in that midfield, which they usually get from that 3. I mean, they've been faultless this season. But up against the Villa midfield and the Villa legs, I think Unai Emery just got it right in terms of how to play that. And if you look at the subs that came on, and I'll come on to them in a moment, that was the big difference maker, wasn't it? Where Newcastle bringing on the people like Matt Targett and Emil Kraft and Callum Wilson, I think it was. Some players like that, we're able to bring on players like Onana. We're bringing on players like Daniel Malen. We're bringing on Rashford. These sorts of players that are coming on for us. Jacob Ramsey after coming on and playing his part. So it just goes to show the squad depth that Villa have is superior to Newcastle's. And that hopefully is going to help us get over the line and get a top 5 finish this season. I think the squad depth that we've got will help towards that. But second half, getting into it, it was a lovely goal from Villa to take the lead. I mean, it started off with Emi Martinez in goal, chipping the ball into Morgan Rogers in the centre circle. Morgan Rogers plays the ball around the corner into Asensio. Asensio first time into Watkins. And Watkins is there running towards the box. And Ian Maatsen is flying past him like a bloody roadrunner or something. Incredible pace to get up the pitch. No Newcastle marker in sight could catch up to him. Watkins plays a lovely weighted pass into Ian Maatsen, who's then one-on-one with Nick Pope and finds a delightful left foot finish across the keeper and into the back of the net. But if you watch it, I love those sorts of goals. Those sorts of goals where it's team build-up. It's Emi Martinez into Rogers into Asensio into Watkins, overlapping one from the fullback, and Maatsen scores. My question being was, if you had Luca Digne playing there, would Luca Digne have got the energy to get that far up the pitch and with that pace that Maatsen had? No way. So Ian Maatsen there, credit to him. Lovely composed finish as well. And he could have scored against PSG, remember, right at the last moments as well. So, and he set up Asensio for a chance. I think he set up Daniel Malen recently for a goal against Forest. So his confidence is really high. And it wouldn't surprise me, and I'll come on to my team lineup for tonight, that he gets the nod ahead of Digne again. Because I think Maatsen now is finding his feet. I think to begin with, it was a little bit difficult for him to bed into the way that Unai wants to play. But right now, Ian Maatsen is absolutely flying. Absolutely flying at the moment. Confidence is high, assists, goals. He's getting it all. He's winning his 1v1 duels. He's getting better defensively. And for me, he was probably one of the best players against Newcastle, even though I think everyone was terrific. But Ian Maatsen makes it 2-1. And then, as I mentioned there, the subs coming on for Villa. Jacob Ramsey was on the pitch for like a minute and a half before he picks up the ball on the left, drives towards the box, and then produces a lovely low cross. Doesn't take it to the byline, tries to get in the element of surprise, I suppose, and just flashes a low ball across the box. Tielemans is his target. It looks like Tielemans either miskicks it or doesn't get a connection on it. But then Dan Burn is kind of running towards his own goal, and it's kind of hits his foot and just rolls into the bottom corner. We'll take it. We'll absolutely take it. I mean, I don't care how they go in. We'll absolutely take it. And at that point, it's 3-1 to Aston Villa. And you have to say the game is getting away from Newcastle. I mean, Isak was kept quiet. I mean, if Tyrone Mings emptied out his pockets, his car keys, his wallet, and Alexander Isak would have fallen out. Same goes for Konsa. Boubacar Kamara would have had, his car keys, his wallet, all his credit cards, and then Guimaraes, Tonali, and Joe Linton all falling out of his pocket because they weren't in the game at all, especially second half. I don't remember Martinez making too many saves, and I think Villa just overwhelmed them. And it's 3-1 at that point. And then the fourth goal comes as well. Again, lovely move from Villa. I mean, before that, McGinn had a chance as well. Good save from Nick Pope. Good strong hand to it to keep it out. And then Villa again sort of winning the ball up high. I think it was a chip pass. Onana intercepts it, plays it to Ramsey. Ramsey first time ball into Tielemans on the edge of the box. Tielemans then feeds in Morgan Rogers, literally on the penalty spot, who shows some excellent feet, gets the shot off. Another really good save from Nick Pope. It goes up in the air. Newcastle defender heads it high, not really away. I think was it Ramsey again rescues it, plays it into Morgan Rogers. Rogers just taps it back towards the edge of the box, where obviously Onana is calling for it. Kamara was there also, but Onana puts his name on it and puts his foot through it, and an absolute rocket ends up in the top corner. And at that point, Villa Park, it's lift off, it's party time. It's Onana with the fourth, and we are, he goes for the old crown celebration as well, and it's 4-1 to Aston Villa at that point, and there's no coming back from that. Villa are rampant. I think Jacob Ramsey hit the post late on as well. It could have been 5, it could have been 6, it could have been 7. I just think Newcastle kind of ran out of steam. I do like Newcastle as a club, always have done, and I hope they do get a Champions League spot. But if it means Villa or Newcastle, then I'm obviously going to go Villa. But I do like them as a club. I've been following them for kind of years, and the old Alan Shearer days, Les Ferdinand, Destino Asprilla, David Ginola, Kevin Keegan. They were a great team to watch. Real entertaining team. So they're always good, and it's good to see them back playing and competing in the top part of the league again. And they have a good squad. But I wish them well for the rest of the season. But Villa flying 4-1 at that point. Could have been 5, could have been 6, could have been 7. It was excellent, and I think every single player played their part. It's hard to pick out a man of the match from all of that. I mean, every week you can go with Tielemans or Kamara, but I think for this one, I'm going to go Ian Maatsen. I think Ollie Watkins was brilliant as well. Don't get me wrong, he was absolutely superb. But Ian Maatsen for me, just the consistency that he's adding to his game now. I think since he got the nod against Southampton, he did really well there. I think he's just understanding his position a bit more, understanding what to do in the game, when to break forward. And he does give us that little bit of a weapon getting forward from left back, because Digne doesn't do it. Cash, as much as I think he's a really good one-on-one defender, he's not great attacking, I don't think. I think he sort of panics a little bit here and there, getting forward. But I think he's sound defensively. Luca Digne, good left back to have there as well. But I think Ian Maatsen just gives you that little bit more. And I think hopefully now, he can bed into the Unai way. And I think him and Malen seem to be getting on well. Obviously, the Dutch teammates and stuff like that. They seem to be celebrating each other's goals and things like that. And, Malen had a chance late on as well, which he sort of dragged wide. He looked a bit dangerous when he came on. Rashford showing some really good pace up against the slow back line of Shah and Byrne as well. So that's another weapon to have. But yeah, I mean, it could have been more, should have been more perhaps, but, we'll take the 4-1. Absolutely. And, we go on now to tonight's game against Manchester City at the Empti-ad or Etihad or whatever it's called. This is always a tough game against Manchester City throughout the years. But the City at the moment just seem a little bit, I mean, they bounced back recently, but they sit in fifth position in the Premier League with, 33 games gone, which hardly never happens recently under Pep. So it's been a bit of a stop-start season for them. Obviously, Haaland is missing now. I think he's out for the rest of the season. So, they've got their own sort of injury issues going on. And obviously, you've got Kevin De Bruyne, who has announced now that he's leaving the club. So there's no new contract on the table. He's out the door. And, I'm sure that he's going to want to try and get them in the Champions League. But the team just seem to be, on the wobble at the moment. And if it's a good time to play Man City, it probably is now. This is probably the most confident that I felt playing against Man City, that we can go to the Etihad and get something, whether it's a point or if we can get 3. I don't fear them today. I'm still kind of worried because, if all of their players turn up and they're all sort of 10 out of 10, then, City have a better team and better players, but we're not far from it. And I think we've got the momentum and the confidence, and those 2 words are important. But yeah, City last 5 games, we look at it just quickly. Obviously, a 2-0 win against Everton at the weekend. 2 late goals as well. They really struggled to break down a stubborn Everton side. It was left to the 84th minute when Nico O'Reilly scored for them. They're one of their youth players who's coming on and done well in the last few weeks and bagged a couple of goals. A real prospect for them. And then Mateo Kovacevic, I can never say his name. Kovacevic, I'm going to go with, scored a 92nd minute, second goal to wrap up the win against a tiring Everton side who didn't have much to play for. Obviously, they're safe now as well. But yeah, so City win that one 2-0. The game before that, a 5-2 win against Palace, where they were 2-0 down after 2 early strikes from Palace. So 5-2 down, 5-2 win against Palace in the end. Kevin De Bruyne scoring just at the right time. Marmoush getting on the score sheet, and then Kovacevic again, James McAtee getting on the score sheet, and then again this man Nico O'Reilly from the back. He's obviously someone that we need to watch from set pieces. I think he played left back for them, but he loves to get forward. So, and then before this one, it was a 0-0 draw, a ball draw as well against United. I mean, I watched some of that as well, and that was a passionless ball fest really of a Manchester derby. So 0-0 against United on that one. Before that, a 3-0 win. Sorry, no, 2-0 win even against Leicester, who are dead and buried anyway. Jack Grealish getting a goal after 2 minutes, and then Marmoush as well. And obviously, this could be the return of Grealish as well. Grealish didn't even get off the bench against Everton in the last game. I think he's on the way out. I don't think he's part of the City rebuild, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him leave in the summer. Whether he comes back to Villa or not, obviously we all love Jack Grealish for what he's done. He's a Villa fan, and helping us through the Championship years and staying in the Premier League. That last game against West Ham will live in the memory of many Villa fans. I think he would be welcome back at Villa the next season if there is a chance of getting him. Obviously, his wages would need to be cut. I think he would take a wage cut. I think if he came back to Villa, it would be a different Aston Villa to the one that he left. We weren't in any position there to challenge for honours. We are now Champions League contenders in terms of getting into the Champions League, not winning it. We are battling on the domestic cup fronts of the FA Cup semi-final coming up. I think we're in a much stronger and better position than when he left. And I think he would welcome a return to Villa. In fact, I see that happening. I don't think we'll get Rashford on a permanent, and maybe we'll bring in Grealish, and Grealish can be that player for us. But let's see what happens. We'll do more kind of transfer talk when the season's wrapped up, maybe perhaps. But Jack Grealish, I do see a return to Villa. I don't see him going anywhere else. I can't see him going to anywhere like Saudi. No. I can't see him playing for any other Premier League side. I can't see him going into Europe anywhere. I think naturally, I think his time at Manchester City is coming to an end. I think he's only got 1 year left on a contract as well. So they will try to want to make some money on him now. And it's just whether the finances can work out in terms of his weekly wages. But I very much see Jack Grealish coming back to Aston Villa. What would be 29, I think now? Is it 29 years? Yeah, I think it depends on obviously the character as well. Unai Emery obviously wants the right sort of characters around the dressing room as well. We've obviously heard quite a bit about Jack Grealish, off the pitch and going out to pubs and clubs and things like that. Does he want that? Does Unai Emery need that sort of headache in the club and disrupting what is a very cohesive squad at the moment? But yeah, we'll talk a lot more about Jack Grealish, I'm sure. But for me personally, I see that happening. I would welcome him back. And I think Unai would be the one to get him back on track and get his head right for us. But, we'll come on to Jack Grealish another time. But yeah, 2-0 win against Leicester. And then before that, the FA Cup quarter-final. Was it quarter-final? They won 2-1 against Bournemouth. Must have been. So that was Erling Haaland, who's obviously out injured now, and Marmoush. But as I said, they sit in 5th position. Goal difference of plus 22 when Villa are just on 6. So that's a big difference there. 58 points. They're 1 point in front of us at the moment. If we can get something at the Etihad, like a 3 points, and overtake them, that would be outstanding. They're 2 points behind Forest, who are in 3rd position. So they're still very much going for a top 4 finish, not just relying on that 5th position. And then the last 5 meetings of Villa and Manchester City, obviously, we remember the earlier reverse fixture this season on the 21st of December, just before Christmas, a 2-1 win for Villa. John Duran scoring early on, and then Morgan Rogers, who had, I think, a man of the match performance against them, scoring, and then Foden getting a consolation in the 93rd minute for them. So 2-1 win for Villa. And then before that, there was a 4-1 defeat. So Man City winning 4-1. Rodri's obviously always good for a goal against us, but no Rodri, no Haaland in this one. So Rodri scores, and then Foden got a hat-trick. I remember that one. I think one of them was a free kick, and it was just a really frustrating day. And again, Jean Duran scores for Villa on that game as well. So there's no Rodri tonight. There's no Duran tonight. Foden was again an unused sub against Everton, so maybe fresh for this game perhaps. Maybe fancies him to play against Villa again. And then there was a 1-0 defeat to Aston Villa. Leon Bailey scored that terrific goal, and it could have been a lot more. I mean, that was one of the best performances I think I've seen from a Villa team in years, in decades. And Leon Bailey got the goal, I think, deflected off Rodri, I think, and sort of looped over Edison and ends up in the Villa Park net in the Holt end. So that was brilliant to see. Before that, Man City winning 3-1. This is going back to 2023 now. Rodri, Gundogan, and Mahrez. That was on the 12th of February. And then the 5th game in the sequence is a 1-1 draw back in 2022. Leon Bailey scoring for Villa again, and then Haaland. And Bailey didn't make the squad. I mean, Unai Emery said in this post-match interview that there were fully fit squad, and there were, I think, 2 or 3 players that didn't make the squad. I think Pau Torres was one. I think Leon Bailey was one. I think Andres Garcia was the other one. Let me know in the comments if I messed that up. But those 3 were fit and available. But Unai Emery just decided that we don't actually need those players in the squad. I think maybe Pau Torres, maybe a little bit of rest there, obviously coming back from that injury. Bailey obviously came back from international duty with a bit of a light injury, but he seems to be fine, but he just can't seem to get back in the squad, let alone the starting lineup at the moment. I think Daniel Malen's been that impact sub from the right-hand side of midfield, and he's scoring goals. He's confident. And at the moment, Leon Bailey can't really play anywhere else across that front three, really. Doesn't play centrally, doesn't really play from the left. He's always been on that right. And at the moment, Marlon has got his place, even on the bench. So Bailey at the moment doesn't get in. So what does that mean for Bailey in the long term? Because obviously Marlon is a permanent signing for us. Could Bailey be looking maybe possibly in the summer for a way out? He's not getting regular game time, not even making the match day squad when everyone's fit. It's it's something to think about. He hasn't been the same Leon Bailey for us for a good, what's it been, 12 months or so. He's fallen off massively from last season. Could it be time for a new challenge, new environment, new teammates? for Leon Bailey. Again, all transfer talk that we'll come on to maybe when the dust has settled a little bit more in the season, and we know where we are, and obviously we know what we can do in the transfer market. Making Champions League for us is going to be massive in terms of bringing players in and maybe keeping the likes of Asensio, for example. In terms of PSR, Rashford, perhaps if we have any chance of keeping him, we need to secure Champions League to get the revenue in to pay his blimmin' wages. So that if we don't achieve Champions League, then a lot of these players, well, Rashford probably won't hang around. Asensio might look for a Champions League team. So it could be a situation where we're not as attractive if we don't get Champions League. If we do get Champions League, I think the difference between the revenues, match day revenues, and TV rights between Champions League and Europa League is night and day. So we really, really need the Champions League revenue, is what I'm saying. But it's going to be a tough game tonight against City. Looking forward to the game. As I said, there's a bit of confidence in the air. I'm feeling a little bit confident about going into this game. Team lineup wise, I think you can't change too much. Obviously, you've got to look at the fatigue and see if there are any niggles or knocks. But I think you've got to go with a similar lineup again. I think you've got Maatsen picks himself in goal. Right back, Disassi didn't get off the bench either. And I think Matty Cash will probably keep his place. As I said, I think Matty Cash is a very good one-on-one defender. I think he'll be up against either Foden or Savinho, I think it is, or is it Doku? I'm not sure who kind of plays on the left for them anymore. Or is it Grealish? Would Grealish get a chance to play here? Does Matty Cash go up against him? But yeah, I think Cash at right back. I think Conson needs to play right centre back. He's just so important to us. The left centre back one, do you put in Pau Torres cold after no minutes, or do you continue with Mings? Mings and Conson have built up a bit of a good relationship. I think I'd go with Mings again if his legs can take it. Left back, I think the idea was to bring in, play Maatsen and then bring in Luca Digne for this one for more, being more solid. But Ian Maatsen has done so well when he's played, and he gives us a great outball. So I actually would go with Ian Maatsen for this. Again, if fatigue is not there and he's fit to play, I think I would start Ian Maatsen at left back. And then the midfield players, Boubacar Kamara needs to be in there, I think. Yuri Tielemans has to be in there. It's just whether you play Onana in there as well and maybe push Tielemans up a little bit to give you that bit of bulk, a bit of physicality. Because City go with those two sitters. It's normally that Nico Gonzalez and Gundogan, I think, in the last game that have been their kind of base players. So it's a case of playing one or two of them. I would go with Kamara and Tielemans, McGinn in the 10. I would go Rashford from the left. Rashford has a really good record against City as well. And then I would go Rodgers from the right. And that would go with Ollie Watkins up front. That would be personally what I would go with. So that would leave me a bench of Ramsey, Asensio, Marlon, Onana. You've got Luca Digne there, Pau Torres, Disassi. You've got still a good, strong bench there. Ross Barkley could come on, be on that bench as well. Maybe even Leon Bailey. Who knows? Might get a recall to the bench, but I can't see it if Marlon's there as well, because Marlon and Bailey are pretty much the same player, unless you're thinking of starting Watkins and Rashford from the left and Watkins from the up top. Then you've got Marlon as a striker option off the bench and Bailey maybe as a right midfield option off the bench, given Bailey's record against Man City in the last few games. He's got 2 goals in his last 5 appearances there. So yeah, there's a lot to think about team lineup wise and what we should do. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, guys. I mean, the last video I did got lots of likes, lots of engagement in terms of comments. It's not lovely to hear what, even from Newcastle fans when I did the preview. Great to hear from them as well and what their thoughts are on Villa. And there seems to be a mutual respect amongst the fan bases of Newcastle and Aston Villa. I think we've been on sort of similar journeys. Obviously, they were down in the Championship not too long ago. We were down in the Championship and we both sort of fought our way back to where we are now in sort of Champions League qualification, contention. And maybe, because we've both suffered the lows, we're now appreciating the highs together. So, for me, I hope Newcastle do get Champions League place. But Man City tonight, big game. Big game. If you're asking me for a score prediction, I'm actually going to go Man City 1, Aston Villa 2. something about the game tonight that I think we are just going to sneak it. Confidence is there. The bench is looking strong. I think it will be a late winner. I think it might be a Daniel Malen 89th minute low shot across the keeper, like we saw against Brighton, like we saw against Southampton. That sort of finish, and Daniel Malen gives Aston Villa 3 points at the Empti-ad. I think Watkins might score as well. I think he's got a bee in his bonnet at the moment. He's really kind of angry, frustrated. Good to see. If that's what it takes to get the best out of Ollie Watkins, let's have it. I think Rashford is going to be an important player for us. Asensio off the bench, pulling the strings. That's going to be interesting as well. But I think it's going to be 2-1 Aston Villa. Daniel Malen, 89th minute goal. Clip this up if this happens. All right. Well, until the game, guys, tonight, enjoy the rest of your working week even, and have a cup of tea. Till then, bye-bye.